Ever pondered how climate change is reshaping our lives, and not necessarily for the better? Let's take a moment to bring this big, sometimes nebulous concept of climate change into focus. Climate change, at its core, is the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. And we're not just talking about a few extra sweaty days in the summer, or needing to crank up the heat a notch in winter. This is about the long-term, big-picture shifts that are happening globally. Now, if you're thinking this sounds like the plot of a blockbuster disaster movie, you're not far off. Signs of climate change are all around us, if we know where to look. It's in the slow but steady increase in average global temperatures, the kind that makes glaciers groan as they melt at an alarming rate. It's in the rising sea levels that are slowly but surely gobbling up coastlines. It's in the changing precipitation patterns that bring drought here and floods there. Sure, you might be thinking, so what if my ice cream melts a bit quicker on a hot summer day? But consider the polar bear whose ice cream, in this case its icy home, is melting beneath its very feet. Or the small island nations watching their homeland disappear under the rising seas. Or perhaps the farmer waiting for rain that never comes. Now, don't get me wrong, a bit of change can be good. It keeps things fresh, keeps us on our toes. But this is like showing up to a casual garden party in a full-on tuxedo. It's too much, too fast, and it's throwing everything out of whack. So climate change is a bit like that friend who overstays their welcome at a party and then starts rearranging your furniture. Except in this case, the furniture includes things like weather patterns, ecosystems, and, the general stability of life on Earth. So it seems like our planet is running a fever, doesn't it? And unlike a common cold, this isn't something we can just sleep off. It's going to take a lot more than chicken soup to fix this one. Now you might be wondering, what's causing our planet to heat up like a boiling pot of water? Well, let's dive right in, shall we? Firstly, we have these pesky things called greenhouse gases. Think of them as the mischievous sprites of our atmosphere. They include carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide, among others. These gases trap heat from the sun in our atmosphere, creating a sort of thermal blanket around the Earth. It's a natural process, but we've gone and turbocharged it by burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, and releasing an overabundance of these gases. Then there's deforestation, our second contender. You see, trees are nature's vacuum cleaners. They suck up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. But when we cut them down, not only do we lose these natural cleaners, but the stored carbon dioxide gets released back into the atmosphere. It's a double whammy. So what are the effects of this climate change extravaganza? Well, they're about as fun as stepping on a Lego in the middle of the night. We're talking extreme weather conditions like hurricanes, floods, and droughts becoming more frequent and severe. We're seeing rising sea levels threatening to submerge islands and coastal communities. Our biodiversity is also taking a hit, with species losing their habitats and struggling to survive. And let's not forget us humans. Climate change isn't just about polar bears and melting ice caps, it's about our lives too. We're seeing the impact on our health. With the spread of diseases like malaria and dengue fever, our food and water supply is under threat, with droughts causing crops to fail and water sources drying up. In short, we're messing up our home, and it's high time we start cleaning up our act. But don't despair. Remember, we're the cause, but we can also be the solution. And in the next scenes, we'll explore just how we can help turn the tide on climate change. So stay tuned. Climate change isn't a picky guest. It's knocking on everyone's door, but some places are getting more than their fair share of knocks. Let's take a trip to the Arctic, shall we? This frosty region is warming twice as fast as the rest of the world. The ice is melting, the polar bears are losing their homes, and Santa might need to swap his sleigh for a speedboat soon. Now let's hop over to the islands in the Pacific. Rising sea levels are causing frequent flooding and even threatening to submerge some of these islands completely. Talk about an unwanted water feature. Lastly, we journey to sub-Saharan Africa. Here, climate change is intensifying droughts, causing crops to fail and leaving millions at risk of hunger. It's a bit like trying to grow a garden in a desert. These regions are the canaries in the coal mine, signaling the urgent need for action. Climate change and global warming, two peas in a pod, right? Not quite. Let's unravel the threads a bit. Climate change, you see, is the broad umbrella under which a myriad of environmental shifts huddle. It refers to long-term alterations in temperature, precipitation, wind patterns, and more. Now, global warming, on the other hand, is a bit more niche. It's one aspect of climate change, specifically referring to the long-term rise in the average temperature of the Earth's climate system. Imagine climate change as a grand, mysterious novel with numerous intriguing subplots. Global warming would be one of those gripping chapters, focusing on the rising temperature narrative. It's an important part of the story, but it's not the whole book. So while all squares are rectangles, not all climate change is global warming. Got it? If we keep going down this path, what does the future hold for our beloved blue planet? Let's take a moment to ponder on this. Predictions suggest a future that none of us would fancy. With climate change continuing unchecked, we could be staring at a world with increased temperatures, making some parts of our planet uninhabitable. Imagine a world with more deserts and fewer forests. Now, picture the sea levels rising, swallowing up coastal cities and creating millions, if not billions, of climate refugees. Think about the loss of biodiversity as species struggle to adapt to these changes and fail. And let's not forget the more frequent and intense natural disasters, hurricanes, floods, wildfires, droughts, all becoming the norm rather than the exception. This is a future where our children and grandchildren might have to fight for resources, a world where survival becomes a daily struggle. It's not a pretty picture, but remember, this isn't set in stone. We have the power to change the course. Let's not waste it. We've painted quite a grim picture so far, but it's not all doom and gloom. Indeed, we humans have played a significant role in the acceleration of climate change. Our reliance on fossil fuels, rampant deforestation, and unchecked industrial activities are just a few ways we've contributed to this global predicament. However, it's essential to remember that we can also be the solution. Let's talk about renewable energy first. The sun, wind, and water are incredible sources of clean, sustainable power. By harnessing these elements, we can drastically reduce our carbon footprint. Imagine a world where the air is clean, the sky's clear, and our power doesn't come at the expense of our planet. It's not just a dream, it's a reality within our grasp. Then there's waste management. We live in a throwaway society where single-use items are the norm. But what if we change that? What if we recycle more, reuse more, and reduce our consumption? It's not just about picking up litter on a beach, though that's a great start. It's about thinking critically about our consumption habits and making changes where we can. And last but certainly not least, political action. Change on a large scale often requires policy and legislation. That's why it's crucial to vote, to make our voices heard, and to hold our leaders accountable. After all, a single law can have a far-reaching impact. But remember, change begins at home. Small actions like turning off lights when you leave a room or choosing to walk instead of drive add up. They may seem insignificant on their own, but when millions of people make these changes, the effect is monumental. The future is in our hands, quite literally, so let's make it a good one, shall we? So we've taken quite a journey today, haven't we? We've navigated the intricacies of climate change, from its definition to its alarming signs that are manifesting around us. We've delved into the causes of climate change, revealing how our actions contribute to this global issue. We've painted a picture of the most affected areas, revealing the stark reality of our warming world. We've distinguished between climate change and global warming, two terms often used interchangeably but with distinct meanings. We've peeked into the future, contemplating predictions that underscore the urgency of action, and we've highlighted the pivotal role humans play, both in causing and potentially mitigating these changes. Remember, it's not all doom and gloom. We've also explored the myriad of ways we can lessen our impact and contribute to a healthier planet. Remember, change starts with awareness. So thank you for taking the time to learn about climate change today. Together we can make a difference.